UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. It's a very complex issue. It's the stuff of conspiracy theorists. Maybe I should don my tinfoil hat. But those days are over. We know that the phenomenon is real. How do we know this? Because we've had whistleblowers. I'm going to introduce you to a whistleblower. Unfortunately, that part of it will be members only. I sat down with this gentleman over a decade ago and recorded what I find to be very interesting information. However, I will give you lots of info before that. So we'll get into all this, but first a word from our justice sponsor. You probably think your 401k is safe, that it's growing, that it'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth, folks. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risks onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, and uncertainty you can't control. Until now. Folks, Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect your future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold. Talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged gold IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone and into something real. And folks, get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at noblegoldinvestments.com, and Noble Gold will send you 2 5-ounce Silver America, the beautiful coins free. Once again, folks, noblegoldinvestments.com. Folks, thanks so much for tuning here. Thousands of you come to this site every day. I mean, I can't even imagine the numbers. The largest arena I've ever spoken at was a UFO conference in Branson, 2019. And Tim Alberino actually put that on, I think in conjunction with Stephen Quayle, but I digress as usual. The bottom line was about 3,000 people there. Lots and lots of people. What amazes me about this is we get minimum 10 to 12,000 views a day, sometimes 20, 30, 50. I mean, the numbers, it's hard for me to get my head around it. I just want to thank every one of you for coming here. If you have not hit the subscription button, please do so. Subscribing. Here's something to think about. Even if you subscribe, YouTube will not send you the new show. We do a show, just so you know, we do a new show every single day of the week, 7 days a week, 365. That's it. We do a show every single day, unless, something happens and we can't get to it or whatever, or all the power goes off, which happens quite frequently around here. But so hit the subscription button, check here every day. We usually post late afternoon, that's Central Time, and there's a new show every single day. So don't wait for the little, YouTube to send you an invitation or a notice that there's a new show. There's one every single day. And while we're at it, and I'll get into this in just a second, but right next to subscribe is a little white button that says join. When you join and become a member for 30 cents a day, $9.99, okay, you get 10% off on everything in the store. Think about that. You get our monthly news magazine, which is great because there's a lot of great authors. Think of Mondo Gonzalez, sometimes Josh Peck, David Schnitzker, Sonda Allison, Karen Wilkinson, one of our authors, Stolen Seed Evil Harvest, Vicki Joy Anderson. They only come out at night on sleep paralysis. Casper McLeod, yours truly. So there's a lot of people that weigh in on that on a monthly basis. The articles are incredible. So folks, for about 30 cents a day, when you become a full-blown member, you get all those perks. Once again, you get the news magazine, 10% off on everything in the store, and of course, access to members only and other perks. So thank you ahead of time for supporting us. Really appreciate it. I want to talk about D.U.M.B.S, deep underground military bases today. And this is the stuff of conspiracy theory. There's no doubt about it. But we've had whistleblowers that have come out in the decades past talking about deep underground military bases. Bob Lazar hinted at some of this when he worked at Area 51S4. Other whistleblowers have come out, and in the members only section, we have a gentleman who was taken into a deep underground military base. Can I vet that? No way I can vet it. I have no idea whether that's true or not. But we disguised his voice. He's completely blacked out, so you really can't see him. You see his silhouette, that's about it. And it's very interesting. So you ask yourself, well, why have a deep underground military base? I actually wrote about this and incorporated that whole idea in my trilogy of a Nephilim trilogy. When you're underground, you can do all sorts of stuff, and nobody knows, right? We know that there are tunnels. I mean, there are definitely military installations. There are tunnels. Think about the Maelstrom base where we had Robert Salas tell us about a UFO hovering over the gate, right over the gate of the facility, and then switched off all 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles. Well, he was down underground about 60 feet, underground silos. So we know that underground bases are certainly a reality. How extensive are they? We don't know. But is there weird stuff going on? In my opinion, there is weird stuff going on. Now, what I'm going to tell you is a story that was told to me by a man who was first responder, specifically with ambulance. And so when something would happen, he would arrive at the scene. He wasn't the driver. He worked in the back. So he'd make sure if a person had an IV going in and, that it was done right, that it was pulling it out. So he was always in the back talking to the people that he was rescuing, helping to rescue. So he tells me this story near the Four Corners area. Now think about that. That is steeped in all sorts of shamanistic, occult-like activity. How do we know this? We've had First Nation people tell us about it. I think of Jimmy City, who was Navajo, Dene, and we've talked about this before. He came on the record and spoke about this. Also, two elders that came on the record. We heard their voices, and maybe I'll run that tape again so you guys can hear it in Native Americans in their words, not mine. But very interesting, very, very interesting. So there are, people, medicine men that are healers and ply that towards people who are sick. But then there are other medicine men who shapeshift and do other things. How do we know this? Well, we know it from Jimmy City, a Dene elder who became a pastor. We also know it from Pastor Curtis. I spoke at his church twice, and he told me about being chased by a dog man. And then his father, he was 16 at the time, and then fast forward about 4 years later, when someone is shapeshifted and is a werewolf, and they call Pastor Curtis Sr., and they're frantic over this because he's there to kill the entire family. And Pastor Curtis grabs his Bible, hops in the trunk, gets his son, they go with him. Where is he? Immediately. And rebukes him, and the thing fled. So stuff like that happens. But, stuff like this happens in Christian circles too, where you get, because people are people, and some people are given over to the dark side. Some people who claim to be pastors are just interested in building their own kingdom. And I say that with all due respect, but that is true. So here's the story about the Four Corners. So this man is in an ambulance, and they arrive at the scene, and it's an elderly gentleman and his wife, and the wife, I believe, is the one that's having heart issues or whatever, and they both hop into the back of the ambulance, and the witness is there who came on the record with me later and told me about it. So he's administering IV and getting everybody calmed down, and out of the blue, the man begins his story and says, we came home a week or two ago, and there were these beings in our yard. And we pulled into the driveway, and they were about 50 feet away. And at first, like, they acted like they didn't see us. And this man is curious. He said, well, what did they look like? Well, he goes, but they were centaurs. Now, a centaur is the body of a horse, right? But from where the horse's neck is, in other words, right where the horse's neck begins, you have the body of a man from the waist up. So from the waist up, it's a man. But from the waist down, it's a horse. Centaurs, Greek mythos. Nephilim stuff here, right? Nephilim stuff, you tell me. In my opinion, it's exactly what we're looking at. So, according to the man, he and his wife were just dumbstruck. What are we looking at here? And all of a sudden, these three centaurs turned and looked at them, and then they just ran away. They galloped away and never seen again. So we've had reports of this stuff. What do you do with that? I mean, what do you do with that? This is the stuff of hearsay. I can't vet it. There were no photographs, unlike we have of the hairy man, i.e. Sasquatch. And here's the deal. I'm not looking for this. I'm just exposing it. I believe that it's the days of Noah, which Jesus warns us about. And because of the days of Noah, there's genetic tampering happening. Where is that happening? In deep underground military bases. Is that conjecture? All day long. I get that. Can I vet that? No, I can't. That's why it's important. That's why it's important to have this man come forward, this whistleblower come forward and go on the record and tell us what he actually saw. So, this is a members only deal from here on out with what the whistleblower has to say about deep underground military bases. Folks, we live in a very strange world. There's no doubt about it. And we have really no idea of what is really going on behind the scenes. Now, think about this before I let you go, before we go over to members only. Think about Peenemünde, which was this top secret Nazi manufacturing. There were tunnels, all sorts of stuff, all underground. Peenemünde. It was a place where the wonder weapons were being created. So they had deep underground military bases. There was a show recently that Josh Gates did, where they were underground in this Nazi fortress, which the surface was bombed out, but they found an entrance of a tunnel and down they went. We know in Egypt there are shafts which go down 150 feet, even further below the surface of the pyramid. Below the Giza Plateau, we had Kathy Forte on, and she had slides. We all saw that. So we know this has been done in antiquity, and we know it's being done in modernity. Certainly with the Nazis, certainly with our own military, absolutely. Deep underground military bases. So what are we looking at here? Who's in control? Who's in control? We have no idea.